Meanwhile, the European Union has announced that it will lift all remaining economic sanctions against Syria. This follows a similar decision last week by US President Donald Trump. Western countries have been under pressure to lift sanctions to help Syria's new government rebuild after 14 years of war. Here is the EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas.
There can be no peace without the path to economic recovery, and we all need a stable Syria. Is everything really ideal there? No, it is not. It's very clear, but I think we need to give the Syrian people a chance.
Let's explore this with Professor Eyal Zisser, who's a professor of Middle East history at Tel Aviv University. Welcome to DW. Can we start with the effects that the current sanctions have been having on Syria as it tries to rebuild?
Well, these were very deadly sanctions that actually led to the collapse of the Assad regime and may lead in the future the collapse of the current regime if not being lifted. And this is the idea behind lifting those sanctions, because they block any effort to invest money and to encourage economic activity in Syria. So it was a must if you want indeed to lead to the recovery of the Syrian economy.
OK, so those blocks go, and then what is the hope? Is the hope that money will come in from international companies and governments?
Yes, this is the idea. I mean, because you can't even transfer money to Syria because of the sanction. You couldn't do it. Any European or American company that wanted to invest even $1 in Syria could be threatened by these American sanctions. So now there is the hope that there will be some investments, that companies, banks, and even states will be encouraged to invest money, to give money to Syria. The private sector in Syria can be active again. So small steps, but needed one. And every long journey starts with one step. And this is the one step in the right direction.
On that issue, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has stressed the importance of his country's support for Syria's transitional government. We'll hear from him and then come back to you, Professor.
In fact, it is our assessment that, frankly, the Transitional Authority, given the challenges they're facing, are maybe weeks, not many months, away from potential collapse and a full-scale civil war of epic proportions, basically the country splitting up.
Professor Eyal Zisser, Marco Rubio there, making the point quite starkly that you started to make at the start of the show. The country is still teetering.
Yes, on the one hand, he is right. On the other hand, everything he said had to do to his need to justify his move in front of the Senate and then of the American public opinion. We know Trump didn't do it for Syria, for the sake of Syria, or because of Syria. He has no interest in Syria. He did it because Ben Salman gave him $1 trillion and asked him to lift the sanction. And Trump said, who cares? You know, for Trump, Syria is nothing, sand and death. So now they want to justify it, and still having said so, you know, without lifting the sanction, there will be no economic recovery, and Syria will continue to be weak as it was. I don't see any immediate threat to the regime of Ahmed Shah. There is no any imminent threat or enemy like Shah himself posed to Bashar some months ago. And still, a weak state is not in the interest of no one in the neighborhood, in the region, and also it's not in the interest of the United States.
OK, so should the lifting of those sanctions by the US and the EU, should they just go automatically like that, or should they be perhaps tied to political developments in the country?
Well, we know that Shara established his regime, but this is, well, a dictatorial regime, you know. He was not elected by no one, and we know that there is still concerns about the situation of minority, especially the Alawi minority in northern Syria. And also he wants Shara to turn Syria into an Islamic republic. Well, not according to the ISIS model, but maybe Saudi or Turkish model, but it's not very popular among many Syrians who are secular. So there are many challenges, and he needs to show the world that he takes care of communities, that in his future government there is a place for every Syrian, and that he is not going to impose anything on the Syrian public. So that's why the United States said we'll do it very carefully. And lifting the sanction, it's only the first step. The other step is, of course, to invest money. And when it comes to investing money, I guess here we'll see an effort to tidy to the domestic policy of the Shara government inside Syria.
Okay, that's very clear. Thanks for guiding us through that, Professor. Professor Eyal Zisser from Tel Aviv University. Thank you so much.